What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down the Thursday night football slate where we have the Chicago Bears versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good real life game to watch. 2-3-1 teams. It's a little bit of a disaster for Draftkings, but we'll get into all of that. If you're new to this channel, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, turn on notification bell. All that stuff really helps me grow. We've had a lot of growth throughout NFL, NASCAR, NBA season. So going to continue to go through all those sports. NBA is really coming to an end, and then NASCAR's kind of coming to an end, so it's just NFL. College basketball starts up in November, so I'm going to be doing content for that. That is my absolute favorite sport, college basketball, so I'm really excited to do Draftkings content for that. So we'll get into all that stuff later on. If you want to get more of my content, you can always sub to my Patreon for football. For only $10 a month, you're going to get articles for every single position every single week, along with rankings for GBPs and cash, along with articles and rankings for every single the Thursday, Sunday night, and Monday night football showdown slates. I'm not doing like every single showdown Sunday like now that DraftKings does that, but just not big contests, so no point in doing that. And then of course I'm gonna have all my injury notes over there as well, so you're gonna know what to do when someone gets ruled in or out on Sunday, so you're not scrambling trying to figure out stuff. So be sure to check all that stuff out over there. But yeah, I think let's get into the video, and we're gonna start with the quarterbacks. We have Nick Foles and Tom Brady. Nick Foles replacing Mitch Trubisky, and I'm really not sure if he's that much better than Mitch Trubisky at all. Both of them aren't good. He's 10,000 to flex and 11,200 or 15,000 to captain. Brady's 11,200 in the flex and 16,800 in a captain. Depending on what opens up here on the slate going forward, I'm not so sure how much I want to have quarterbacks at captain. Usually they're not going to be the type of guys I want to play captain, but as you saw in the Jacksonville-Miami game a few weeks ago, that was a game where there was just a ton of value because you had top players being ruled out, so you could just fit in whoever you wanted to, and at that point you probably want to go more towards the quarterbacks at captain. But if we have the big names on this team like Montgomery for the Bears, Mike Evans for Tampa, those we'll see about Evans, like he's questionable right now. We'll get into that when we talk about receivers. Then probably not going to want to go towards the quarterbacks as much, but we'll start out the matchups where we're going to go look at the offense versus defensive line matchups. Overall, it's going to be a slightly negative matchup for Chicago Bears. That Tampa Bay defensive line is one of the best in the NFL, one of the best run defenses in the NFL, and it's going to be a slightly positive matchup for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, the starting wide receivers, well, I think the receivers for the Bears are fine. We got Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and Anthony Miller, but right now I got it as Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, and Justin Watson for Tampa Bay. Now, all three of those players are questionable, and Chris Godwin is out already, so you're going to really have to pay attention to injuries there. And I mean, if these guys are out, you have guys that haven't even been targeted yet that are going to be playing receiver. I'm sure at least one or two of them is going to play. I think Evans will probably play. He got hurt in the last game and played in the end, played through it. So I'd be surprised if he misses this game. The other guys, we'll see what happens. So be sure to look out for that. When we go look at, they're playing against the cornerbacks. We have the cornerbacks for Tampa are Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, and Sean Murphy-Bunting. And the corners for the Chicago Bears are Kyle Fuller, Jalen Johnson, and Buster Skrine. Overall, it's going to be positive matchups for both sides, a little bit better for the Chicago Bears. Those Chicago corners have been pretty solid. I mean, so have Tampa's. It's tough matchups on both sides. For the tight ends, we have Jimmy Graham, and now Rob Gronkowski slots into the number one tight end spot of O.J. Howard tearing his Achilles, so Gronk should see more targets. Jimmy Graham's got a brutal matchup against Levante David, who's been the best linebacker in the league so far this year, and Devin White. And then Jimmy Graham has a matchup against Danny Trevathan and Roquan Smith. It's going to be a negative matchup for Jimmy Graham, but a positive matchup for Gronk. We go look at the safeties, Antoine Winfield Jr. for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jordan Whitehead, and then Tayshaun Gibson and Eddie Jackson are the safeties for the Chicago Bears. Those are both going to be positive matchups, but more positive for Foles. When we go look at the overall total offense versus defensive matchup, Brady's going to have a slightly better one where Nick Foles is. They're both positive. They don't have negative matchups, but still positive. The line is one of those lowest scoring games on the total week, but this is just a one-game slate, so that doesn't really matter. The Bucs are favored by slightly favored over Chicago here. When we go look at the defense versus position, they're both horrible matchups for these guys. The Chicago Bears have allowed the 31st most amount of points in the league. That's a really bad spot for Brady there, and then 26th for Tampa against Chicago. So it's not the best matchups, but none of these matchups are going to be good. These are two defensive teams that don't score a lot, honestly. So this is what you're going to be having to look at. That's offense versus defense line for the ranks. We don't get into that's more for the overall the main slate. So I mean, those are that's the stuff to know about those quarterbacks. I mean, my thoughts on them, I'm probably not playing them in the captain unless those receivers for Tampa get ruled out. I'm probably just playing Robinson, I'm playing Evans, I'm playing Montgomery, and I'm putting the quarterbacks with those guys. Maybe not Montgomery, but we'll talk about how that could be viable when I get to the running backs in a second. But I think these guys are fine to play. I mean, you want to play them in flex spots, always quarterbacks in flex spots, but maybe not someone to go for as captains. When we go look at the Chicago or the running backs, we got David Montgomery and Cordero Patterson. I'm interested in Chicago, and then Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, and Keyshawn Vaughn. Now, Fournette missed last week. He's questionable again this week. So if he's out again, obviously Ronald Jones probably becomes, honestly, like my favorite captain play on the entire slate this week. But if he's there, they're both a little thin. These are guys I don't really just want to play in general on the main slates when they're both there, because who knows what Bruce Arians is going to do with his running backs. He's seen it be all up and down. But I'm going to inside when we go look at the volume. First off, we'll go over to matchups. We're going to look at the offense versus defense line matchups. It's really the main matchup that matters for running backs. Overall, it's going to be positive for everybody pretty much. Montgomery coming in with the lowest positive one on there. So, I mean, it's that's actually wrong too. That's supposed to be 1.58. Oh well, long week. Yeah. So I mean, the Bears are in a tough spot. I mean, this Tampa run defense is really, really good. It's one of the best in the league, if not the best run defense in the league. I mean, as of right now, it's ranked 22nd, and then you have the Bears is ranked 15th best. So like, that's 22nd worst. So like that's like a bad matchup. Like when you see the high numbers, that's a bad matchup for the running backs. So like they're really 10th best running defense in the league, Tampa, as of now, against fantasy running backs. So when we go look at the volume they're going to get, we've seen now. The thing is, Tariq Cohen is now out for the Chicago Bears for the rest of the season, tore his ACL or Achilles, one of those two. He's out for the year, and so that, I mean, the volume for David Montgomery on the ground's probably really not going to change that much. When we see him get 13, 16, 14, 10, but the volume in the air is. We saw him get 6 targets last week with Tariq Cohen off the field, which is why I think that he could be viable to put him at the captain with Nick Foles as well. I mean, I think it's viable no matter what, because it's a showdown slate. Like, anything's viable, but like if you're making one lineup, sometimes if you're putting a running back there, you may just not want to put the quarterback because it sometimes aren't affiliated together. So like, but he's getting 6 targets. So, I mean, if he's seeing that amount of volume again, and we've seen over and over again against Tampa this year where running backs they're not even going to give him the ball because they know they're just going to get stopped. They see less usage on the ground. They're going to see more through the air. So, David Montgomery could be a sneaky play here through the air against Tampa Bay. So, definitely like going there. Cordero Patterson is just someone to like fill out a lineup. Probably want to make a rule of both Montgomery and Patterson, probably only one of them. But we know what Cordero Patterson can do. He can break out long runs. He's done it his entire career. I mean, when he was a receiver, now he's a running back, but I think he's a fine flex play. Now, Ronald Jones last week saw 20 carries, and he saw 9 targets with Fournette off the field, so I don't know if we were going to see him get 29 touches again, but I think 20 could be definitely in the realm possibility if Fournette is indeed out again. But if Fournette plays, it's been all over the place for Ronald Jones, 17, 7, 13, and then 3, 2, and 4 in the target in the passing game. So like, I mean, I think they're fine then. I probably don't want to touch Ronald Jones as captain if Fournette's playing, but if Fournette's out, I think Ronald Jones is probably my favorite play on the whole slate. And then Keyshawn Vaughn is only viable if Fournette misses. I mean, we saw him get three carries and 3 targets last week. One was in the red zone, so he's just a viable flex option, but only if Fournette misses. If Fournette plays, I'm not touching Keyshawn Vaughn at all. Snap percentage overall, I mean, Montgomery's playing a ton. They're sort of splitting snaps down there, Rojo and Fournette when they both play, but Ronald Jones was on the field 65% of the time last time. So, yeah, I mean, I think I just really like Ronald Jones as a captain if Fournette misses, but if Fournette's there, probably not going to go there as much. I didn't even filter out the wide receivers that I like. That's unfortunate, but we'll just keep it going. Wide receivers that I'm interested in for Chicago Bears are going to be Anthony Miller, Darnell Mooney, Allen Robinson, and then for Tampa, it's going to be Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, and Justin Watson. When we go look at the offensive versus defensive matchups, overall, the wide receiver versus cornerback matchup, it's going to be positive for Allen Robinson, but that's it on Tampa or on Chicago. Those Tampa Bay Tampa Bay corners are very, very good. When we go look at the overall matchup for Mike Evans, it's going to come out. It's going to change right there. Yeah, positive. Chris Godwin's missing. So it's going to come out positive for Mike Evans. It's going to come out positive for Scotty Miller. It's going to come out positive for all these guys. Justin Watson is like even. So, this is a tough spot for these guys. They're going to be in. It's going to be a slow down game pace. Like these are all good defense. Both defenses are really good. Both have good run defense. Both have good corners. Both have good safeties. It's just a tough spot. When we go look at the individual matchups, though, we have Carlton Davis going against Allen Robinson, that's actually going to be a slightly negative matchup. That's going to be a positive matchup for Allen Robinson. He's been one of the best receivers throughout the year. Darnell Mooney gets Jamel Dean, and then Anthony Miller in the slot's going to get Sean Murphy-Bunting. That's probably the best matchup for the Bears, an individual matchup. So Anthony Miller, definitely someone I like a good bit in the flex because that's like a weak spot on that Tampa Bay secondary. When we go look at the overall matchups for Tampa Bay, you got Mike Evans versus Kyle Fuller. I think that's kind of an even matchup. Really good receiver, really good cornerback this year. Jalen Johnson then against Scotty Miller. That's going to be positive for Johnson. And then Screen against Justin Watson. It's probably another about even matchup, maybe a little more positive for Screen. Although he hasn't really looked too great this year. But, I think these are just fine options. Like Mike Evans, definitely like him as a captain. Definitely like Allen Robinson as a captain. Anthony Miller would be a little bolder, but I think he's fine as a captain. But that's really probably it in this range. When we go look at overall matchup, offense versus defensive matchup, it's going to be very positive for Mike Evans, nor Chris Godwin. He's not playing. Scotty Miller, it's going to be positive. Justin Watson, it's going to be positive. But then you come look at the Bears guys, and the only one it's positive for is Allen Robinson. So that scares me a little bit. I do still like Anthony Miller's individual matchup in the slot, but it's still, an overall not the best matchup. When we go look at the volume that these guys are getting, we're seeing Anthony Miller averaging 4.75 targets a game. Darnell Mooney's averaging 5, and then Allen Robinson's averaging 10.25. So definitely like Allen Robinson this week. I think he's just a very good, he's just good every day. Every time he's out there on the field, he's just a really good wide receiver in general. So definitely someone I want to get some exposure to. Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin on the field, is averaging 9 targets per game. Without Godwin on the field, Scotty Miller's averaging 5, and Watson's averaging 4.5. So they're going to get some usage if they play. Again, make sure to, if these guys get ruled out, like Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, and Justin Watson did not practice yesterday. They're all questionable right now. So if these three miss, Tyler Johnson hasn't even seen a target this year. Jaden Mickens hasn't even seen a target this year, and I don't even know who these other guys are. They haven't even played. But Tyler Johnson and Jaden Mickens have at least been on the field a little bit. So these are probably the guys to go to, but we'll talk about the tight ends in a second. I think those are really the more important ones to probably look at. But they're going to be so cheap, and they're interesting values. So, but Mike Evans, Allen Robinson, definitely my favorite captain, plays receiver, like Anthony Miller in the flex spot. I think Miller and Watson are fine in the flex spot. Probably a little bit more of Justin Watson. I think I like a little bit more. I don't like Scotty Miller's matchup at all. So I think those are the spots to go to there. We'll finish it out with the tight ends, where we got Jimmy Graham and Demetrius Harris for the Chicago Bears, and then Cameron Breit, I'm going to talk about Cameron Breit today, and then Gronkowski for the Tampa Bay Bucs. O.J. Howard towards Achilles, out for the year. So Rob Gronkowski should see a big usage. But before I do that, let's get into the matchups. Levante David and Devin White are the linebackers for Tampa, and Danny Trevathan and Roquan Smith for the linebackers for Chicago. Overall, we're going to have positive matchups for Gronk and Breit, and it's going to be negative for Jimmy Graham. The Levante David is just elite, bro. I just don't think Jimmy Graham's going to do much here. When we go look at the overall matchup, it's going to be positive for Gronk and Breit and negative for Graham and Harris. When you look at DVP overall, this is the Bears have been okay against tight ends. Both have been okay, but the Bears have been a little bit worse than the Bucs against tight ends. I just don't think I really want to play tight ends against Levante David personally. He's just a very, very good linebacker, so probably not somewhere I really want to look to. When we go look at volume, we've seen Jimmy Graham's averaging 5.75 targets per game. Harris is averaging 1.75. So Demetrius Harris is literally just a punt play. If you really want to take a deep shot, go for it. If you can load up all the expensive guys and then throw in Demetrius Harris, I don't hate that at all. But if all the value opens up for Tampa, I don't really want to go there. I don't see the need to force that. And then you got Cameron Breit, who is going to be, I guess, filling in for O.J. Howard. But, I don't really like him as much now. But I do like him if those wide receivers get ruled out, because Brady's going to need guys to throw to, and Cameron Breit offers us that. Hasn't really played a lot of me. If we go look at his percentage of snaps, he's not averaging 11% of snaps on the year. But now O.J. Howard's out, so I do expect that to go up a little bit. And then I think that if those receivers are out, he'll get some more usage in the passing game. And then Gronkowski should just see more usage. Averaging 3.5 targets per game right now. He's been on the field a good bit, but the last 2 weeks seen 93% and 86% of snaps. And then now with O.J. Howard out, I think that's going to give him a huge bump. So definitely someone I like. And then, I mean, we'll talk about the defense. I'll talk to you about defenses and kickers right here. I think they're both very viable. This is a lot like the Jets-Broncos game last week. It's a low total, low-scoring game. So I do like playing both sides of defenses, honestly. For my general rule when I'm playing defenses in Showdown is I just don't like to play my defense against my captain. Other than that, I don't really care. And then kickers, I don't like to play both of them in the same lineup. Occasionally, that's going to work out like last week, but I don't think that's really something that ever really hits that often. So I definitely like both kickers and defenses this week. I usually like to play those when you have low-scoring games. This can be a low-scoring game. And then the offense versus defensive line matchup is negative for the Bears, so like that's a little bit of a plus for the Bucs defense. So I do like going there. But yeah, I think that's really all I gotta say in this video. It was a little bit rocky. Had a long week of school. But what you gonna do? I hope you guys have a great week, great day watching football, watching this game. I'm probably not gonna watch the whole thing. I'm probably just gonna go to bed. I don't really care about the Bucs and the Bears that much and watching this game at all, unless it's really good and I'm making a lot of money before I go to bed. But other than that, I probably was just gonna call it a night. But hope you guys enjoy this game and hope someone takes down a tournament or something. I mean, that's huge. That would be huge for us. So thank you guys so much for checking this out and have a great rest of your day.